Imagine a group of friends who promise to defend each other if anyone is attacked. That's the core idea behind NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Formed after World War II, NATO's main goal was to prevent future wars through a powerful alliance. Today it includes 32 countries from North America and Europe, united by a commitment to democracy and collective defense. Article 5 is NATO's backbone. An attack on one is an attack on all. Ukraine, however, is not a NATO member. This means Article 5 does not apply to it. While Ukraine is a close partner and has modernized its military with NATO's help, it doesn't have the alliance's full protection. Since Russia's invasion, NATO members have become Ukraine's main supporters, providing weapons, training, and aid, without direct military involvement. This partnership is crucial, but it's not formal membership, and that distinction shapes the entire conflict. Ukraine wants to join NATO for security, but Russia sees NATO's expansion as a threat, one of the reasons it invaded. So NATO's shield doesn't officially cover Ukraine, but its influence shapes decisions in Kyiv, Moscow, and Western capitals. The world is watching as Ukraine, a partner but not a member, fights for survival on NATO's doorstep. NATO countries provide unprecedented support, but avoid direct confrontation with Russia, a nuclear power. This situation tests international law and Western resolve. The big question: how far will NATO go to help Ukraine, especially in defending its skies? The answer could reshape the future of European security. For Ukrainians, the low, buzzing sound of a Shahed drone is a signal of terror. These cheap, explosive-packed drones are sent in waves, often at night, to target cities and civilians. Their goal isn't precision, but fear, making nowhere feel safe. Called kamikaze drones, they destroy homes, hospitals, and power plants, leaving devastation and psychological trauma. By attacking civilian infrastructure, especially in winter, Russia tries to break Ukraine's spirit and create a humanitarian crisis. Each drone that gets through is a tragedy, and the sheer number of attacks strains Ukraine's defenses. Russia launches swarms to overwhelm air defenses. Even a few drones slipping through can cause catastrophic damage. Ukraine must use expensive missiles to stop these cheap drones, draining resources in a war of attrition. The constant threat forces millions to live in fear, testing their endurance every night. This is modern warfare, targeting civilians to pressure a nation into submission. The world sees the destruction, but also Ukraine's resilience. The drone war is a brutal, ongoing test of Ukraine's will and the world's response. Close the sky, a plea from President Zelensky, means more than just protection. It's a call for a no-fly zone. In military terms, this would require NATO to patrol Ukraine's airspace and shoot down unauthorized aircraft, including Russian jets and drones. Enforcing a no-fly zone is not passive. It means NATO pilots would directly engage Russian forces, a step toward direct war. The goal: protect civilians, stop the bombing, and restore some normalcy to daily life. But the risk is enormous. A NATO-Russia clash could escalate into a global conflict, given Russia's nuclear arsenal. That's why NATO has refused, despite the moral argument for intervention. Instead, Ukraine and its allies seek other ways to control the sky, mainly through advanced air defense systems. The world faces a dilemma: protect Ukraine's people, but avoid a wider war. The no-fly zone remains out of reach, forcing creative solutions. Ukraine's skies are a battleground for both military technology and international resolve. The search for alternatives continues, shaping the course of the war. The stakes couldn't be higher for Ukraine, or the world. Putin's invasion counted on air power and quick victory, but Russia's air force fell short. The Kremlin turned to cheap Iranian drones to terrorize civilians and destroy infrastructure. The strategy: break Ukraine's will and exhaust Western support through relentless attacks. But instead of surrender, Ukraine's resolve has only grown stronger. Each drone strike unites Ukrainians and galvanizes global outrage, making it easier for Western leaders to send more aid. The drone campaign, meant to demoralize, has backfired, accelerating Ukraine's defensive innovation. Ukrainian forces have become adept at shooting down drones, using everything from missiles to machine guns. The attacks have made the case for more advanced Western air defense systems. Putin's gamble has armed his enemy and strengthened international support for Ukraine. The drone war is now a symbol of Russian desperation and Ukrainian resilience. The world's response to Russia's drone war has been swift and determined. Images of destruction have inspired massive aid packages and grassroots support for Ukraine. Instead of isolating Ukraine, Russia's attacks have united much of the world against its aggression. Military aid has shifted from basic supplies to advanced air defense systems, as partners recognize Ukraine's urgent needs. The US, Germany, UK, France, and others have sent everything from shoulder-fired missiles to radar-guided platforms. This coalition is united by one goal: help Ukraine defend its people and sovereignty. Training and intelligence sharing have deepened, with Ukrainian soldiers learning to operate new systems in NATO countries. Allied surveillance provides early warnings, boosting Ukraine's defenses. The world isn't just sending weapons, it's investing in Ukraine's ability to use them effectively. This unprecedented support is reshaping the battlefield and Ukraine's future. NATO's direct military involvement is off the table, but its support for Ukraine is vital. The alliance coordinates aid from its 32 members, ensuring efforts are strategic and efficient. The US has sent Patriot missiles, Germany the IRIS-T, and Norway and Spain the NASAMS, top-tier systems that give Ukraine a fighting chance. NATO has also reinforced its eastern flank, deploying troops and equipment to border states like Poland and the Baltics. This sends a clear message to Moscow: NATO territory is off limits. By strengthening its own defenses, NATO creates a safe zone for supporting Ukraine. The alliance's dual approach, arming Ukraine and deterring Russia, defines its current strategy. It's a careful balance. Help Ukraine defend itself, but avoid direct escalation. NATO's actions show its commitment to European security and national sovereignty. The alliance adapts constantly, responding to the evolving situation on the ground. As the war drags on, Ukraine's need for advanced air defense grows. The next step: long-range systems and fighter jets, especially the American-made F-16. F-16S would let Ukraine intercept missiles and drones far from cities and challenge Russian air power. Getting these jets isn't simple. Training pilots and building logistics takes months. Several NATO countries are already training Ukrainian pilots and preparing for jet transfers. This marks a shift. The West is now willing to provide offensive capabilities, not just defense. Early in the war, there was hesitation to send such weapons, but Russia's brutality changed minds. The consensus: Ukraine must have the tools to win, not just survive. Delivering F-16S signals a long-term commitment to Ukraine's security. These systems could fundamentally change the air war and Ukraine's future. Looking ahead, Ukraine's defensive capabilities will keep growing, especially with the arrival of F-16S. These jets will protect cities and force Russia to rethink its air attacks. Russia will adapt, targeting airfields and launching more complex attacks to overwhelm defenses. The battle will become a high-stakes game of adaptation and innovation. NATO's challenge: maintain unity and keep the flow of support steady. Political will in the West will be tested as the war drags on. The goal: make air attacks on Ukraine too costly for Russia. The aim is an integrated air defense so effective it acts as a no-fly zone, enforced by Ukrainians, not NATO pilots. This would save lives, protect the economy, and give Ukraine's forces freedom to operate. It's a long road, but the most realistic path to securing Ukraine's skies. The fight for Ukraine's skies is about more than one country. It's about global principles. If Russia succeeds, it sets a precedent that borders can be changed by force. This threatens not just Ukraine, but the security of all Europe and the rules-based world order. NATO sees supporting Ukraine as an investment in its own security. Weakening Russia's military now helps prevent future conflicts. The war's economic impact is global, affecting energy, food, and inflation everywhere. A stable Ukraine is key to a stable global market. On a human level, Ukraine's fight is for freedom, democracy, and self-determination. Their resilience inspires the world and reminds us that these values must be defended. Supporting Ukraine is a stand against tyranny and for international solidarity. What happens in Ukraine's skies will help define the world's future. The outcome matters to us all.